Imagine leaving your home on a completely normal Friday morning and suddenly noticing that the fuel light in your car has turned a bright warning red. You are probably not worried at all. Under normal circumstances, there is a convenient gas station directly on the way to your work, and another massive one located just near the highway entrance. Except today, both of those familiar locations have completely disappeared. So has every other retail gas station across the entire planet. The physical cars still exist exactly as they did yesterday. The massive industrial refineries still produce millions of gallons of liquid fuel. Sprawling pipelines, cargo ships, rail cars, and countless tanker trucks are still operating flawlessly in the background. But the extremely familiar places that safely store that vital fuel locally and efficiently transfer it into millions of waiting vehicles are simply gone forever. At first, this might seem like a retail problem. We lost a type of shop, so another business can sell the same product. But gasoline and diesel are flammable liquids requiring specialized tanks, pumps, permits, safety systems, inspections, and reliable deliveries. You cannot place barrels of fuel beside the bread in a supermarket and continue as normal. Gas stations are the final interface between enormous energy infrastructure and an individual driver. Remove that interface and fuel can exist in abundance while vehicles remain unable to reach it. In 2025, Americans use roughly 374 million gallons of gasoline every day. That is an extraordinary daily flow. Most drivers experience it as a 5-minute stop under bright lights. The simplicity hides storage terminals, tanker schedules, underground tanks, payment systems, environmental controls, and workers constantly replenishing local supply. So what happens when the pumps disappear? During the first hour, nothing dramatic happens on the road. Most cars already contain some fuel. Buses complete routes. Delivery vehicles leave warehouses. Parents drive children to school. People with full tanks may assume the disruption will be solved before it matters. Drivers near empty would immediately search online for an alternative. Maps would show blank spaces. Some would call fleet depots, marinas, farms, airports, or industrial sites that maintain private fuel storage. Those facilities were not designed to serve the public, and many would close their gates for safety and to protect their own operations. This is where the emotional effect would begin. The distance you can travel would no longer be measured only in miles. It would become a shrinking circle around your home. If I had promised to visit family that weekend, I would start calculating whether the fuel in my tank could take me there and back. A journey that felt automatic yesterday would suddenly become a decision carrying real risk. Before continuing, look at your own daily routine for a moment. How many important places absolutely require a personal vehicle? Think deeply about your specific workplace, your local school, a critical medical hospital, a large supermarket, or the home of somebody you deeply care about. Which specific trip would receive your remaining fuel, and why? Let me know your exact answer in the comments section below, so we can all see what shared priorities emerge when everyday mobility is suddenly and permanently restricted. We read every single comment, and your unique perspectives adds immense value to this ongoing discussion. By lunchtime, people would begin changing behavior. Offices would send employees home early. Drivers would cancel non-essential trips. Car rental companies would stop releasing vehicles. Used electric cars would receive enormous attention. Public transportation would fill with passengers who had not used it for years. Fuel theft would rise. Vehicles, construction sites, farms, and private storage tanks would become targets. Police would protect major depots. Online advertisements offering suspicious containers of gasoline would appear almost immediately. Prices on the informal market would soar because the problem would not initially be the national quantity of fuel. The problem would be safe local access. A person with a legal storage tank, a pump, and a delivery relationship would control something millions of drivers needed. The disappearance would also erase thousands of convenience stores attached to gas stations. For some communities, especially along highways and in rural areas, these stores provide food, water, medicine, toilets, cash machines, and a safe place open late at night. Losing the station would therefore remove more than fuel. Workers would lose jobs too. Cashiers, maintenance teams, tanker schedulers, inspectors, equipment technicians, and franchise operators depend on the retail fuel network. Many could transfer into emergency distribution, but the employment shock would arrive before the replacement system. By the end of the first day, businesses would begin sorting vehicles by importance. Ambulances, fire engines, police cars, utility repair crews, and public buses would receive priority. Governments would direct tanker trucks toward temporary controlled depots. Hospitals could keep emergency vehicles moving, but employees still need to reach hospitals. A nurse with an empty car may live far from any train or bus route. Critical infrastructure depends not only on official vehicles, but also on ordinary workers traveling to their jobs. This is the point most people overlook. Fuel powers labor mobility. Modern cities often separate homes, workplaces, shops, schools, and services across large distances. Gas stations make that geography function. Remove them, and the design of the city becomes part of the crisis. Dense cities with public transportation, walking routes, and cycling networks would adapt faster. Suburbs and rural regions built around cars would face greater disruption. A person living 10 miles from work may not have a realistic alternative, even if they are physically able to walk or cycle part of the route. By the second day, freight prices would rise. Long-distance trucking companies maintain fuel contracts in some private facilities, but many vehicles refuel through public or commercial station networks. Small operators would struggle first. Delivery routes would be combined or canceled. Airports and ports would continue operating because aircraft and ships use specialized fueling systems rather than neighborhood stations. That might sound like an escape route, but passengers and workers still need to reach terminals, and goods still need local transport after they arrive. An airplane can cross a continent in hours and still leave a traveler stranded 20 miles from home. The same pattern would appear around rail stations. Long-distance networks could remain functional while the short road journey at each end became difficult. Taxis with fuel would charge more. Electric taxis would be booked constantly. Hotels near transport hubs would fill with people unable to complete the final part of a trip. Once again, the smallest distance could become the hardest. Supermarkets would still receive some goods, yet deliveries would become less frequent and more expensive. Home delivery companies would prioritize dense neighborhoods where one route serves many customers. Remote households would pay more or wait longer. Food production would also feel the pressure. Tractors, harvesters, irrigation pumps, and farm trucks often use fuel stored on farms or delivered by specialist suppliers. Large operations might continue. Smaller farms without sufficient storage would compete for limited mobile deliveries. Construction sites would slow as excavators, generators, cranes, and material vehicles consumed remaining diesel. Waste collection could become less frequent. Road maintenance and snow removal would face difficult choices during severe weather. Fuel does not only move people, it moves the machines that keep places usable. Could everyone simply switch to electric vehicles? Eventually, electrification would become the most obvious response. Electricity already reaches most buildings, and chargers can be installed in many locations. Drivers with home charging would enjoy a major advantage from the first day. Their mobility would become more valuable, and the price of electric vehicles could rise sharply. But an instant national switch would be impossible. Manufacturing millions of vehicles requires batteries, minerals, factories, workers, financing, and time. Many households cannot afford a new car. Apartment residents may lack private parking or chargers. Heavy equipment and long-distance freight have different energy needs from small passenger cars. The electricity system would also face new demand. If millions of drivers began charging from ordinary outlets, local grids could become stressed. Utilities would need transformers, cables, chargers, software, and trained installation crews. Many of those crews currently travel in fuel-powered vehicles. Technology can solve a dependency while creating a transition problem. Hydrogen, biofuels, and other alternatives would receive investment, but they also need production and distribution infrastructure. A hydrogen vehicle is not useful without a hydrogen station. Changing the liquid does not eliminate the need for a safe interface between energy and the driver. History gives us a smaller preview of how quickly fuel access creates panic. When a cyber attack disrupted the Colonial Pipeline in 2021, gasoline deliveries across much of the southeastern United States were temporarily affected. Drivers rushed to buy fuel, and shortages appeared at stations. The pipeline returned, but the event showed that expectations can empty local supplies faster than national production changes. In our scenario, there are no stations to empty. The rush would target every alternative source. Within the first week, governments would create temporary fueling points in stadium parking lots, transport depots, military facilities, and industrial zones. Drivers might receive digital ration codes based on occupation and need. Fuel could be reserved for food delivery, healthcare, utilities, public transportation, and emergency services. This would create arguments. Is a plumber repairing a broken pipe essential? What about a caregiver visiting an older person? A restaurant supplying meals? A parent driving a child with special needs? Economic categories become painfully personal when a government decides whose journey matters. Fraud would follow the rationing system. People would sell access codes, exaggerate business needs, and divert fuel. Inspectors would chase illegal storage operations. Fires and contamination could increase as inexperienced people handled gasoline in unsuitable containers. Safe storage rules might feel bureaucratic during normal times. In a shortage, society would rediscover why they exist. Businesses would adapt creatively. Employers could organize buses and shared rides. Supermarkets might operate customer shuttles. Mobile fueling companies would deliver directly to approved vehicles. Parking lots could become battery charging hubs. Bicycle sales and repair shops would boom. Working from home would expand again wherever jobs allowed it. Video meetings would replace trips. Local entertainment and neighborhood shops could gain customers because people would avoid long journeys. The effects would be unequal. Office workers might stay home. Construction workers, cleaners, nurses, warehouse employees, restaurant teams, and factory workers cannot move their jobs onto a laptop. People with flexible schedules and home chargers would gain freedom while lower-income workers faced longer commutes and crowded buses. Property values could shift. Homes near reliable public transportation, jobs, and essential shops would become more attractive. Distant developments built on cheap land and easy driving would lose some appeal. Businesses would move closer to workers or offer transportation as part of employment. After 1 month, the fuel industry would look different. Refineries and terminals would still need customers, so companies would finance new distribution models. Tanker trucks could refuel vehicles at scheduled neighborhood stops. Fleet depots might open controlled public lanes. Automated compact pumps could appear in secured parking areas. Oil prices could initially fall at refineries because normal retail demand had lost its route to consumers, even while street prices for accessible fuel exploded. This would look contradictory, but follow the same logic seen in other broken supply chains. A product can be cheap where it is stranded and expensive where it is desperately needed. Storage terminals would fill. Refineries might reduce output because they could not move enough product into vehicles. Producers would earn less, while drivers paid more to informal sellers. The gap would represent the suddenly enormous value of distribution. Investors would rush toward companies able to close it safely, and governments would face pressure to prevent a few private depot owners from controlling local mobility. Some countries might accelerate a nearly complete shift toward electric mobility. Governments could subsidize chargers, buses, rail, and electric commercial vehicles. Oil demand would fall over time, affecting producers, refineries, shipping, tax revenue, and geopolitics. Gasoline taxes currently help fund roads in many places. If fuel sales collapsed, governments would search for replacements such as distance-based road charges, electricity fees, or general taxation. Eliminating the station would therefore change how transport infrastructure is financed. There could be positive results. Cities might become quieter, air pollution could fall, public transportation in walkable neighborhoods could receive serious investment, households might spend less time driving, local businesses could become more important. But the transition would not feel clean or inspiring to the person unable to reach work, buy medicine, or visit family. Long-term improvement does not erase short-term pain. Over several months, new energy points would appear. Some would provide fast charging, battery exchange, hydrogen, or mobile fuel delivery. Others would combine several options with food, restrooms, and services for travelers. They might look more digital and use less land. They might operate without cashiers. They might generate electricity on-site and schedule vehicles through applications. Yet drivers would still need recognizable, safe, convenient places to obtain energy while traveling. We would reinvent the gas station, even if it no longer sold much gasoline. That is the deeper economic lesson. A gas station does not create fuel. It converts distant energy production into local mobility. Its value is accessibility, safety, speed, and location. Return to that Friday morning. Your fuel light is still red, and the station on your route is gone. The amount of gasoline inside the country may not have changed at all, but your ability to reach it has disappeared. Energy is useful only when it arrives in the right form at the right place, exactly when people need it. Without that localized access, the greatest energy reserves in the world are functionally worthless to the average citizen trying to survive. The gas station was never just a pump. It was the small, irreplaceable doorway connecting your quiet daily life to an enormous, complex, and incredibly fragile global energy system.